least through my recent videos, one of my biggest problems that I have with society and the court system is this narrative about these quote unquote maternal instincts, and that, all mothers are going to do what is in the child's best interest. And while that may be true for some and maybe even a lot of women, that is not true for all women. And in these days, I really can't even say a lot of women, because the stories I've come across is just horrific, horrific things. And today we're going to go over just that. So in my previous video, I mentioned how the court system just automatically assumed that the mothers are going to do the right thing, that they're going to do um, what's in the child's best interests. And as I stated, that is not always the case. And I stated that I was going to prove it in my next video. Or prove what I mean in my next video, which that's what this video is for. Now, before I start, again, I just want to make it clear, I'm not trying to badmouth all mothers. I'm not trying to do that at all. Okay? My point is, the longer we, as I stated, the longer we play with this narrative of the quote unquote maternal instincts, well, she carried him, she knows best, she knows better than the father, and this and that. The longer we play with that narrative, the more kids are going to pay the price. And at the end of the day, they are the ones who pay the ultimate price. And so in this video here, we're going to cover a very, very tragic case. And it's going to start, this clip here is from Pink Book Lessons, her channel. And I actually really like her channel. I just come across her channel a couple of days ago when I heard about this story. And she was one of my favorite ones that I heard that actually covered this story. So part of it's going to be her take on the situation, and I'm going to put my 2 cents in on that, and I'm also going to add in some news clips and some other things to just kind of help drive home the seriousness and severity of these situations. And this is a very, very recent situation. This is not something that happened 10, 15 years ago. This was something that happened this year. Okay? And it took a couple of years of custody battles to get to this point. And this is why I say people need to be aware of these situations. People need to start taking these things more serious, and especially court systems. And towards the end of the video, I'm going to kind of explain that a little better once I start adding the news clips in. So let's just get started so you can hear the story and see what's going on here.
You have a man, his name is Michael. He met this woman here in New Jersey. Her name is Retta. When Michael met Retta, she already had a daughter. Her name was Aaliyah from a previous relationship. Aaliyah's father, Kevin, also lived in New Jersey, and she had a great relationship with her father. Michael decided to move forward with Retta, and he also accepted her young daughter, Aaliyah, recognizing her as his daughter too. Michael.
Okay, that is one of the key points I just want to make in her version of this. I've stated before in one of the baby mama videos, not my personal, but one that I reacted to, is that step parents need to stay out of that. They really, really do. I mean, she said that this man come along knowing that this girl had a good relationship with her dad, and he accepted this child as his own. That is not your child. That is his child. You have no right to claim that as your child. And it doesn't mean be mean to the child. By no means does that mean, am I saying be mean to the child because she's not yours. What you need to do is have respect for the father who is doing a good job in being a dad to his kid. And you, as a man, should not want to come in between that out of respect for him and the child. Because, I mean, because it's just not right. It's just not fair to the child or to the dad for a step parent to come into a situation like this and just automatically think he's going to take the dad's place. You have no right to do that, and you have no right to think that you do. And in thinking that you do, and thinking that you're going to come in and you're going to take this man's place, honestly, in my opinion, it takes, it takes a real piece of shit to want to steal another man's kid. That's my opinion on that.
Michael ended up getting Retta pregnant so that he could have his own biological child with her, solidifying them as a family of 4. Then Michael made the decision to move his family to Phoenix, Arizona. He wrote, "I moved here with my
You hear this? Okay, and I'm glad I actually stopped it on this point. You heard what she said. Michael made Michael, the stepdad, who was the stepdad to the older child, made the decision to move his family to Arizona from New Jersey. I mean, that's across the country. So the stepdad made a decision on his stepdaughter's behalf to take the child away from the biological father and move her across the country. Again, what makes you think you have the right to make that decision? You have no right in that decision. And you are messed up as can be to take a child away from her father. That is really messed up. Knowing that he's got a good relationship with his daughter. Because, I mean, you saw the picture. I mean, you know, with the daughter and the biological father, you know, kind of cuddled up together and smiling and for the picture. And there'll be more throughout this video. But so obviously I mean, it's not like he didn't know that the daughter had a good relationship with her father. He just didn't care. He decided he was going to take the child as his own and move her across the country like he had the right to do that. You're not the child's father. You don't have the right to make that call. But the reason I said I like the fact that I stopped it on this one is it says he moved her there for spiritual reasons. And from what I read, he actually stated that in his GoFundMe page, which happened um, after the incident occurred. He created a GoFundMe page, which will come up later in the video. But that's where he made that statement. It wasn't. I don't know if that was the initial reason or if that's what he told the mother, but from what I read, that didn't actually come up until after everything unfolded.
Children and their mother from New Jersey for spiritual reasons. I wanted to make my daughters aware of the spiritual nature that I believe in. And Michael believed that Arizona was a very spiritual state. So when the family moved to Arizona, it caused a lot of friction between Kevin and Retta, both parents wanting Aaliyah to stay with them. Kevin wanted her to stay in New Jersey, while Retta wanted her in Arizona so that Aaliyah could be with her, Michael, and her youngest daughter, Royal. That's when the custody battle fired up a few notches. Kevin gained primary custody at some point, but he allowed Retta to
just a quick note that at some point he gained primary custody in 2019. Um, and again, that's going to come up later in the video once I show the news feeds. But that's what it was. Is when she moved to Arizona, he did. I mean, this man fought relentlessly for custody of his kid. And again, like I said, like you see how happy they were. So For you as a step parent to think it is okay to take that child away from that man makes you a pathetic person, dude. Like, really. You ain't got no right making that call. Even if you wanted to move your daughter, because at the time they moved to Arizona, he had his own child with a woman. So if you wanted to move your own child and the woman to Arizona, that's fine. But you had no right to take that girl with you because that was not your daughter. That was her daughter and that was his daughter. That was not your daughter. You had no right to make that call. And the entitlement that it takes to think that you do have that right is just ridiculous. Like, it's really baffling to me is to think that, and not necessarily just this man in this case, because there's a lot of step parents especially men, they go into a situation with a single mother, and they just automatically think they're going to take on this child as their own. And me personally, if I was ever to get with a single mother who and the child had a very good relationship with their dad, I'm never going to come in between that. And I'm never even going to try to. I'm never going to say, hey, forget about him, you call me daddy. I'm never going to say any of that because that's not my place. In fact, I'm going to respect the man for still being actively involved in his kid's life. I'm going to respect him for that. And I'm going to make it clear to him that I'm not trying to step on anybody's toes. I'm not trying to come in between the relationship you have with you and your child. And that doesn't mean that I'm going to treat the child badly. That just means I'm going to have respect across the board all around for the mother, for the dad, and for the child. And so many step parents these days don't have that respect. They just seem to think, well, I'm dating a mother, so now I'm the dad. No, you're not. You're just the boyfriend. That's all you are. You're not the dad. You're barely even the step parent. You're just a boyfriend. But that doesn't give you any type of decision making over that child's life.
Take Aaliyah for spring break in March 2020, and around that time the US was shut down due to C-19, and Retta refused to return her to Kevin. Retta was finally able to have her way by taking Aaliyah from Kevin and being able to have her full time in Arizona. Kevin told the court that Retta had no right to take Aaliyah, being that he was the custodial parent. So the fight in family court across two states, New Jersey and Arizona, it all continued when Kevin filed the appropriate paperwork. Meanwhile, Michael and Retta lived as a family of 4 in Phoenix, including both daughters, Aaliyah and her little sister Royal. The couple got...
Okay, the thing about that is even if he filed the proper paperwork, alright, now at this point, he already had primary custody, and as I stated, that was in 2019. He already had the proper paperwork. He was awarded um, full physical primary custody of the child. And and you could tell by the fact that he had primary custody, yet he still allowed the mother to see the child for spring break. It obviously shows that he was not trying to alienate this child from her. That's not what he was trying to do. Because even after he got primary custody, he still allowed her to get the child during spring break, even though he didn't have to. But yet when he did that, the mother used it as an opportunity to keep the child, especially when the C-19 came up. But when he went back to court and he filed like, she's not giving me my child back, as I've stated before, like when the court system asks, well, what can we do different? When situations like this come up, and a mother or either one of the parents is refusing to give the child back, you as a court system need to understand there may be something more sinister as going on here, and that you need to intervene in that. And so you need to send somebody out to that residence to retrieve the child from her. Because it's obvious she's not going to send the child back on her own. You can send her all the paperwork you want to. But unless you're sending a law enforcement officer to enforce that, she's not going to do anything. And that's obviously what happened here.
Into a verbal fight in March 2021, Retta was so combative that Michael had to call the police on her to intervene. Police showed up to calm Retta down, but they didn't detain her or charge her with anything. This whole time, Kevin was back in New Jersey. He was worried about his daughter, Aaliyah. At that time, in March 2021, he hadn't seen her in over a year, which was not normal for him. You see, Kevin...
I mean, it's not only not normal for him, he had primary custody. So, I mean, this man was, like I said, this man was nice enough that even though he had primary custody, he didn't have to let this woman see this child during spring break, but he was nice enough to do that because he wasn't trying to be mean. He just wanted his daughter. But he also wanted his daughter to have a relationship with her mother. And in doing that, she decided, especially with the C-19, as if that was an excuse to keep a child from the other parent. And the messed up thing about that is actually because I have a court scheduled visitations. When that happened, when the shutdown happened, he was with the mother, and she was trying to play it off like that was a good enough reason not to bring him back. And I said, no, I'm coming to get my kid. The only difference is we were across town, not across country. And that's where the issue here is, I mean, it's not like this man was saying, look, I don't want you with this guy. I don't really know anything about that, but, I mean, she could have stayed in New Jersey. There was no reason, like, she clearly didn't think about how it was going to affect the child or the biological father. All she was thinking about was what she wanted and what Michael wanted, or the step parent, what they wanted. And this is a result of situations like that. And again, you as a step parent have no right to make any decisions when it comes to a child that is not yours. You have no right to, like, I mean, it's just baffling to me that you would even think that you do. But then in this man being so nice and saying, look, I still want you to have a relationship with your daughter. I will let you have her on spring break. The respectful thing to do would have been to send her back at the end of that spring break. Instead, this man's got primary custody and has to go an entire year, more than a year, without seeing his daughter. Even though he had primary custody, so when she said it's unusual, of course it's unusual. Because he had primary custody, she should have been with him all the time anyway. So to go a year without her, and as a dad, I can honestly say, like, that to me would be a very, very stressful year for me. Like, I was alienated from mine for the first 2 months of his life, and that was a stressful 2 months because I was really, really wanting to see my kid. I wasn't allowed to see him. And so if I would have had primary custody and had to go a full year without seeing him, I'm really going to be upset then. Honestly, I could say he probably handled it better than I do, or I would have, because I would have drove to Arizona, and I would have been banging on somebody's door and be like, look, you're coming with me. It's just a messed up situation.
He's been there with Aaliyah active her whole life, highly involved in her daily life before Retta took her from him. About 6 months later, in September 2021, Kevin finally got some good news. A judge ruled in his favor and ordered Retta to return Aaliyah back to him in New Jersey. He was excited to be reconnected with his daughter once again after not seeing her for a year and a half. Retta, on the other hand, she didn't like this news at all.
After not seeing her for a year and a half. And here's the thing. This is what like I said just a minute ago. He was awarded, or the court ruled in his favor, and ruled that she had to return the child. So at that point, and it's hard, and I mean, when you're looking at September, you said a year and a half. Obviously, she had no intentions of returning the child. So what makes you think a simple court order, a piece of paper, is going to make her do it? She already knew what the consequences of her actions were when she decided to not return the child in the first place. She already knew what the consequences were going to be. So, if this man hadn't seen his kid, he's got primary custody, was still nice enough to let the mother have the child during spring break, and yet was not allowed to see his kid for a year and a half after that. You don't think, as a judge, maybe we should send somebody out there to get the kids, because it's obvious the mother is not going to return the kids on her own will. That's why I say the court systems and anybody involved really need to step up their game and do a better job so that these situations don't happen.
Did not want Aaliyah to go back to New Jersey with her father. So after she received the news about the court order, she told Michael that the girls had C19 and that she would keep them quarantined in the bedroom where she would watch over them.
See, that's obviously an excuse to keep the kids for a little bit longer. Well, they got a C19, so I can't send it back. Even though the court order says, well, now they got a C19, so I can't do it physically because their health is at stake. This is why I said, and this was after she got the court order. This was after she got the court order. She said, well, they got C19 now, but I can't return them. This is why I say the courts need to step up their game, realize these situations happen, and do a better job. And, don't tell me you don't have the resources, okay? Because it doesn't take that long for a cop to drive out to that residence, pick up the child, take the child back to the station, call the dad up and say, hey, we've got the child. You can come here, pick up the child. Me, I don't care, because I'm on the East Coast as well. And I don't care if I would have had to drive to Arizona. I would have done so to pick up my kid. I don't care if I would have had to take 2 or 3 days off of work to do it. Because that, knowing that I was on my way to pick up my child to bring her back so that she was going to be safe for the rest of her life, that to me would have been worth the 2 or 3 days I missed at work. But the court system did not do that. And this is why court systems need to understand that women like this, that's what you need to watch out for. And again, you like I said in my other video, I mean, the female prisons are filled up too. So you can't deny the fact that women do bad things. And with all the cases that I've come across, and this one included, and there'll be more to come, but this one included, not all mothers are good mothers. And some of them will go to extremes to keep the dad from getting the child.
2 days after Retta received the court order, Michael came home shortly before 6 p.m. This was the evening of September 8th, 2021, and he found 9-year-old Aaliyah and her 4-year-old sister, Royal, both of them, lifeless in the bed. Retta had barricaded herself in a room by pushing the bed against the door. Michael called 911, and when officers arrived on site, they detained him. But after investigating in the house, they let him go. Detectives say a prescription pill was found near one of the girls by her mouth. They also found a bottle of Oxy, Tylenol, and a liquid substance in the room. Investigators are saying that Retta used those pills to sedate and overdose her daughters. She was found in a room with no clothes on, and she had self-inflicted cuts and a handwritten note near her explaining the situation. Retta was taken to the hospital and she survived. At the hospital, she denied knowing about the confession letter, but opened up to the hospital staff about what she did to her daughters. Nearly a week later, Tuesday, September 14th, Retta was released from the hospital and she was arrested. She was officially charged with taking the lives of Aaliyah and Royal. The judge set her bond at $2 million. Both fathers, Michael and Kevin, they're left to plan funerals for their daughters. Kevin made this statement. He said, "I feel for Mike. His daughter's gone too, but he had a chance to say something too." Kevin.
Like, I really agree with that statement, and I understand where he's coming from on that. And he actually said it better than I would have, to be honest with you, because I would have been highly pissed off about this. I mean, and I would have lashed out at everybody involved. Um, but like, and for the reasons like he just stated, like, but he had a chance to say something. Um, and the issues with that is for one, it was Mike's idea to move the kids to Arizona in the first place, which basically separated the child from the father. All right, but at the same time, as stated in this video, through Pink Book Lessons video, um, was that there was an altercation between Mike and Retta that led to the cops being called because Retta was being extremely aggressive. And so he knew what she was like. He knew, and I'm sure that between Mike and Retta, I'm sure they had many, many conversations regarding keeping the child from the father and the fact that they didn't want the child to go back. Because this man, Mike, was claiming this daughter, who was Kevin's daughter, as his own. So he didn't. It seems to me like he didn't really want the daughter to go back either, because he wanted to raise this child as his own. And as a dad who has been stuck in a situation like that, where the step parent is trying to take my place, where the step parent is claiming my child to everybody in their community, all of their neighbors and everybody else, they're telling everybody that that is his child, even though it's my child. And so I can see where this man is coming from, saying that Mike had a chance to say something, but he didn't. And the reason he didn't was because he knew the daughter was going to go back, and he didn't want that. He wanted to raise the daughter as his own. Because this whole time, this whole year and a half, that they were living in Arizona with the kid while keeping the kid away from the biological father, they were raising the kids as their own. He was probably telling everybody in their community that that was his child, that both of those daughters were his daughters. And that's not right. Like, guys, I mean, everybody, if you're a step parent, but guys especially, because guys tend to seem to want to be this knight in shining armor that's going to come to save the woman, pick up all the pieces, and take care of her kids, and take care of her, and this and that. Like, dude, that's not your place, man. You had no right to claim this man's daughter. That's why he didn't say that. My opinion. That's my opinion. That's why he didn't say nothing, is because he knew the results. And again, because I've been in that situation, is that a lot of people don't want to speak up on the bad things that are happening there because they know the chances are the child's going to end up coming to me full time. So they're not going to say anything because they don't want that to happen because they're too busy playing dad to my child. And that's what it seems like happened here. And that's messed up as can be. And in the end, as always, it's the kids who pay the price for it. Because society and the court systems pretend that this stuff doesn't happen. How many more cases do you need to see to prove it? How many more kids got to come up dead before you realize this is a big problem? And it is usually caused between a step parent and a mother as a way to get back at the dad, or just, for the step parent and the mother's own benefit. Because most of the time when situations like this happen, the latest test that I saw was back in 2019 that shows when cases like this is considered filicide. I'll put the definition up on the screen when I edit it. But 43% of those cases are caused by the mother. 13%, if I'm correct, was, and this again in 2019, 43% was caused by the mother. 13% was caused by the step parent, usually the stepdad. I think it was a low percentage, like 6 or 8%, was a babysitter or a child care provider, and then the dads rounded out the rest. So dads didn't even make up 50% of that. And in 2019, there was 1,800 kids, over 1,800 kids that were a victim of that crime. Again, I'll put the definition of filicide up on the screen if you don't know what it is. But let's continue on so I can try to add into these news clips real quick.
Kevin believes that Michael was there with the girls and Retta. He was aware of her behavior during their court battle and also supported Retta in keeping Aaliyah in Arizona with them and away from Kevin in New Jersey.
See what I mean? He knew about her attitude. He knew because, it's obvious they had many conversations about the court battle in the privacy of their own home. And unfortunately, the only two that know that are them two. And that's sad because he's not gonna tell the subject of those conversations, and she's not gonna tell the subject of those conversations. So nobody's really gonna know what was said behind those closed doors. But like this man said, he knows what her feelings were on the matter, and he supported her in keeping this child away from this dad. The step parent did, as if he had any decision in this child's life. So I say y'all step parents gotta step out, man. Like, that's not your place. That's not your business. It's not your kid. Stop acting like it.
Sadly, we have another example to add to the millions of stories never told by mainstream media. I'm talking about the story of the flawed family court system.
Bam.
Kevin had...
That is exactly what I'm talking about. I've been talking about this through the last few videos, is the flaws in the family courts. And even though this man was awarded primary custody, and he went to the court system saying, look, she's not returning my child, the court system did nothing but send her a piece of paper saying, hey, you need to return the child. They didn't send any kind of law enforcement out there to actually retrieve the child, which is what should have happened. Because if that would have happened, this child and the other one might still be alive. Is that not worth the effort? If you want to tell me you don't have the resources, you mean to tell me the resources is not worth saving this 9-year-old little girl's life? You can't spare the resources to save a 9-year-old girl's life. You're going to send his mother a piece of paper. This man has primary custody. She has not returned the child for a year and a half. And you think a piece of paper is going to make her automatically say, okay, I'll send her back. Really? Really? How naive can you be? And this is why I say, like, they don't really comprehend the seriousness of every single situation. Because if they did, if they would have done what was right, like I said, they would have sent somebody out there and be like, look, because, I mean, if this man files a court paper in in New Jersey, how long do you think it's going to take for that court order to be sent to Arizona? When all it takes is a phone call to the PD in that district, that jurisdiction of wherever the mother was living, call that police department and say, hey, we need you to go to this address, pick up this child, and call the father and say, hey, come and get her. Because that's what needs to happen. Because the thing about it is fathers lose custody all the time. And as if not the last two videos, the one before that one, the 3 videos ago, I covered a case of a man who was awarded full custody, and because the judge didn't send a cop out to that house, the mother, when she lost custody of the kid, went home and shot the kid. And that was, I think, in 2019 is when that case actually happened. This is in 2021. So the problem is persistent. The issues are growing. The number of kids dying at the hands of their own parents is growing. And yet the court system hasn't made any effort or taken any steps into approving those stats. That is a problem.
Had custody of his daughter, but the mother didn't want him and his new woman to have her. Instead, she wanted their daughter to live with her and her new man. And by the way, the new man, Michael, was there living with his daughter that he has with Retta along with Aaliyah. Michael knew that Retta was not right when she took Aaliyah from Kevin. It was Michael, the stepdad's idea to move to Arizona in the first place.
See what I mean? And this is why I chose to do this lady's video, because I like the points that she's making here. Is Michael, the stepdad, knew it was wrong to take that child away from the biological father. And yet he was actually the one that encouraged it. So it goes back to what I said. Like, it really takes a real piece of shit to want to take another man's kid. I mean, now if the father's not involved, if the father has made it clear he doesn't want to be involved, if he's signed over his rights, if you want to step up and take care of that child, by all means, do you. Alright? But if the child and the biological father have a great relationship, you are a real piece of shit if you try to come in between that. Point blank is simple. And I'm not even going to try to sugarcoat that. You are a piece of shit if you try to come in between that. Because you ain't got no right. That's not your kid. And that is as messed up as can be for you to do that. Because if... Alright, so let's say... Alright. So this man, Mike, ended up having a kid with this woman. The 4-year-old, who ended up dying also. But let's just say... Kevin, the father of Aaliyah, the 9-year-old, let's just say he decided he wanted to take the 4-year-old away from the father, the Mike. How do you think Mike would feel about that? Oh, he would be pissed, right? So it's it's okay for you to take another man's kid, but it's not okay for another man to take your kid. You see how messed up that is? Really?
500 miles away. He didn't care that Aaliyah will be ripped away from her father, or vice versa if she had to be ripped away from her mother. And in this case, Retta lost, and that was her excuse for doing this to those kids. He thought that somehow he was the better parent and was making the decision for another man's child. And that's my problem with Michael and people like him. And as far
That is one of the biggest key points that she made in this video that I absolutely agree with. Is Michael thought that he was a better parent than the biological father, and he thought he had the right to make these decisions. And this woman, who the creator of the Pink Book Lessons, said that is the biggest problem I have with people like Michael, and that me personally, I am. That is also a big problem, as I stated just a minute ago, is a big problem I have with people like him. Is because you have no right to take this one here. This was Mike's. Okay? So even if this one was going to return home to her dad, this one here, if you can see the cursor, I'm going around her head. This one here, Royal, was his biological child. That child was going to stay with him and this lady here. But this lady couldn't stand the fact that this girl here was going back to her dad. So to her, that justified taking out both of them. So now Mike tried to take this girl away from the biological father, and this girl ended up taking both of these kids away from both of the fathers. And again, like, my biggest problem is the step parents who automatically think that the child is theirs. No. Whether you're a stepmom or a stepdad, because like in my case, in my situation, as much problems as I have with the other side, that is what it is. But I cannot and will not allow a woman to come into my life thinking that she is going to take on the motherly role of my son. Because it's not going to happen, and I cannot allow that to happen. Because it's not fair to him, and it's not fair to the mother. Even though I really approve of a lot of things on that side, in the end, I can't allow somebody to attempt to take her place, because that's not her place to do it. You see, and it really kind of comes down to this lady right here. It comes down to her responsibility as well. Because on the flip side of that, the mother is also supposed to enforce that. They're also supposed to enforce that if another man comes along, that's fine. That's up to you. That's not a problem. But it's your responsibility to let that man know that this is not your child. You are not the father. This child has a good relationship with the biological father, and you have no right to come in between that. That is the mother's job to do that. Just like it is my job to ensure that no woman thinks she's going to take on the motherly role of my kid, because that's not her place to do it. And I will not allow her to do it. Because it's not fair. It's not fair to him. Period. That's the ultimate goal. That's the ultimate thing. It's not fair to the child. It's not fair to the child to have you pushing somebody else onto that child, even though they have a good relationship with the other parent.
As far as Retta, she's your typical controlling, deceptive Cruella. Men lose in family court every day, but when women lose, they can't take it.
That's one of the my my favorite points that she makes in this video is that men lose every day in family court. Every day. The majority of the time. This case here is one of the, I would say, 1, maybe even 5% of the men who actually get awarded primary custody. And I would be willing to bet that the reason this man won primary custody is because this woman took off to another state with the kid without notifying him. And because that is grounds for losing, you can lose your parental rights for that. So I would imagine that's why he ended up with primary custody. Most of the time, it goes in the woman's favor. And yet, when women lose, they can't take it. And it's because they already go in there with this mindset, because everybody knows, and I don't care what, I mean, you can say what you want to say, but I mean, everybody knows men have a very big disadvantage when it comes to family court. So, in the small percentage of times that men actually win those cases, this is what happens. And I actually covered it 3 videos ago, where a man went through false accusations, was charged with false accusations, was kept from his son, and then after he was awarded full custody, the mother went home and shot the kids. This lady pretty much did the same thing, just a different way. Because they couldn't handle, because they automatically assume, and I've actually heard this from my own baby mama, is that this is a mother state. And a lot of women go into court with that mentality that this is a mother state, that the courts are automatically going to side with the mothers. And most of the time they do. And when they side with the fathers, this is what happens. Like this lady, the creator of this Pink Book lesson said, is that fathers lose custody cases every day on a very regular basis. And yet the small percentage of time that women lose, they can't take it. They can't handle it. And this is the result. So how many more, again, how many more kids are going to have to suffer before you realize this is what really happens? This is, I mean, it's one thing when you see it on TV, I mean, but like when you experience these things, and I personally have experienced the loss of a kid, and I hope I don't ever, because that's something I just don't think I could ever deal with. But the reality is that nobody should have to deal with that. And the court system and law enforcement and CPS and even lawyers need to do a better job at making sure that these things don't happen. Because this lady was still, and I think you'll hear later on once I start showing the news broadcast, this lady was still given a court-ordered defense attorney. And defense attorney's job is to defend women like this against the crimes that they commit on these 2 kids. And how are you as an attorney, how can you sleep at night? How can you live with yourself knowing that you try to get this woman off from the crime that she committed against these 2 kids? How can you live with yourself on that? Knowing that you were even attempting to do that.
Hurt the most by all of this are these 2 little girls. They're no longer here. And that's what it's really about, the kids. But destructive mothers like Retta could care less about the kids. It was all about her and Michael and what they wanted to do, as if Kevin had no daughter involved in this.
Exactly. Exactly. That's what I just said a few minutes ago. They didn't care. Like, this was Kevin's child. He had no say so in the fact that they were going to move this child to Arizona. He had no say so in that. Because if the mother was actually pushing for or promoting equal time with the other parent, she would have told Michael, "No, look, I can't, because then the father won't be able to see his daughter, and that's not right to her. That's not fair for her." But she didn't say that. She said, "Sure, sounds like a great idea. Let's go."
If she knew that it would hurt her so bad if her daughter had to move away from her permanently and stay with her father 2,500 miles away, why did she move to Arizona in the first place? She didn't move across town. She moved on the other side of the country. And that decision made it impossible for them to split time with their daughter. And I'm saying this because she's the one who said that she was stressed out because she had to send her daughter back to New Jersey to be with her father. Well, you wouldn't have had to go through all of that if you would have just stayed in New Jersey. Nobody said that you and Michael couldn't be together. She and Michael, they could have stayed in their place on their side of town, while Kevin and his woman was on the other side of town in their place. But either way, they...
Exactly. Exactly. Nobody said her and Michael couldn't be together. Nobody said anything about that. But if her issue was the child was going, she didn't, the stress of sending the child back to her father, well, you were the one that made the decision to move across the country in the first place. If you would have stayed right there in New Jersey, y'all could have split the time and you wouldn't have had to worry about that. But you didn't think about that. You and Michael made this plan for a child that wasn't even his. And that's what you went with. And this was the outcome. This was the tragic outcome. Because not only did Kevin's kid lose her life, the other one did as well. She didn't take... I mean, even if she says the stress of sending the other kid back bothered her or got to her or whatever, the fact is she killed the other man's kid too. I mean, like I said, even if they were going to move to Arizona, even if she had to send the 9-year-old back, they still had one between her and Mike. They still had that one they could have raised, and they could have went on with that and went on about their life. And instead, this lady felt it was better or necessary to cut the life of not one but 2 kids short, regardless of what it cost to the kids. A 9-year-old and a 4-year-old. One was just starting out in school, and one was just almost to the point of getting ready to start school. Cut short at that moment. So, I mean, do y'all really think that all mothers are good mothers after this? Do y'all really think all mothers are considering a child's best interest? Because just like in the one where the mother alienated the child from the father, and it resulted in the father losing his son, this lady didn't care about, like, she decided she would rather take the child out of this world rather than let the man have full custody of a living child. Is that really in the child's best interest? So the child's best interest was to have her life cut short at 9 years old. That was the child's best interest. Rather than go live a productive life with her dad. Really?
had made that decision, Aaliyah wouldn't have to be ripped away from anybody. And then Michael made a GoFundMe and he wrote there, "My two angels." In the description, he talked about
this again is actually, because I was gonna actually kind of cut this video short on this clip, but this point here at the end is why I let it go this far into the video, because there's only about a minute left in this video, and I am gonna end it here. But this is Michael's page. This is the stepdad's page, and he's still saying "My two angels" on a GoFundMe page to bury his daughters, and he's still calling these his daughters. This one, the little one, is his daughter. This one is not his daughter. And because him and the mother could not accept that this girl was going to go back to live with her biological father, now he's got to have a GoFundMe page for both of them. And he's still excluding the biological father from that. He's still saying "my two angels." This is not your two angels. This is yours. This one is not yours. And it's messed up that you can claim this man's child even after her death, as if this man doesn't exist. So I'm going to move on just real quick. I'm going to try to add in these other clips real quick to show you the news stories so you can see how it actually developed. And I'm going to show the dad's kind of final statement as a result of all of this.
And now to our big story, the deaths of two sisters, 9-year-old Aaliyah and 4-year-old Royal McIntyre. Phoenix police say their mother, who was hospitalized with self-inflicted stab wounds, who they haven't officially identified to us just yet, is the main suspect in their deaths. But tonight we're hearing from the biological father of Aaliyah, who lives in New Jersey and has been in a custody battle over Aaliyah and now wants justice for his little girl. Team 12's Josh Sanders has the details.
He's actually not even in the place to talk.
Tanisha Jones' partner, Kevin Maddox, is still trying to process the horrifying news no parent ever wants to hear: the death of his 9-year-old daughter, Aaliyah.
Friday morning, he got a call while he was at work, letting him know, that Aaliyah was deceased. I'm at work and he gave me the call and he's like, "She killed my baby, she killed my baby."
Anybody who's involved in this scene right now, it's heartbreaking to walk into that or to hear about it.
Aaliyah and her 4-year-old stepsister, Royal, found dead inside their Phoenix apartment near 12th Street and Mountain View last Wednesday. Phoenix police believe the girl's mother may have been responsible for their deaths.
We're all grieving and mourning the loss of an innocent child that did not have to die.
Tanisha says Kevin was in a custody battle for Aaliyah, wanting her to live with them in New Jersey.
They were very close and he loved his daughter, so I want the world to know that. I don't want it to look like he did not care, he wasn't present, because he was very present and he fought for her for many, many years.
The father of a 9-year-old girl allegedly killed by her mother, speaking first to 12 News. 9-year-old Aaliyah McIntyre was found dead in her mother's apartment near 13th Street in Northern. Police say her mother killed her and her 4-year-old sister. Now, Aaliyah's father is telling Team 12's William Pitts that Aaliyah should have been with him instead of the mother.
This was a very bitter custody battle, one that Kevin Maddox won. That custody battle has now turned to a murder case.
She took my baby's life from me, from my family, from her sister.
Kevin Maddox wants answers.
It hurt so bad, yo. It hurt so much. That was my baby.
His daughter, 9-year-old Aaliyah, dead. Police say her mother, Retta Cruz, overdosed her and her 4-year-old sister, Royal, with prescription and over-the-counter medicine, then tried to kill herself. Court paperwork says she confessed, saying she did it because of the custody case.
I don't know what happened. I wasn't trying to be mean to her or nothing. I just wanted my baby back. That's it. That's all.
The custody battle has gone on for years. Maddox in New Jersey, Retta in Phoenix. But Maddox sent us a copy of an order from 2019 that shows a judge ordering him to have custody of Aaliyah. Still, the fight continued for 2 more years. Maddox says he even asked Phoenix police to check on Aaliyah in September of 2020. Police confirmed they did, but no one was home. Phoenix police say unless a judge gives them an emergency order, they typically aren't involved in child custody.
Despite all of his due diligence, none of the law enforcement agencies assisted him. And the end result is there are now 2 children whose lives have been lost.
I had big dreams for her. Me and my girlfriend. We had big dreams for her. And now she's not going to be able to do any of that.
Maddox and his family want to know how this happened. Cruz is being held on $2 million bond, charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder.
Alright, so everybody, I know this is another pretty intense one, but the whole point of this is to show that, not all mothers have this maternal instincts, we as a society, and especially as a court and a legal system, have to be able to address these situations. Because without that, more kids are going to suffer. So everybody, again, I know this is a pretty intense one, but it's a reality that we have to face if we're going to make the necessary changes that are necessary to keep these kids alive. And that's why I do what I do, is to try to save these kids who are in bad situations. And it's up to our court system and our legal system to acknowledge these issues so that they can make the necessary changes in their system to prevent these situations from happening. So everybody, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you're new here, please like and subscribe. I've got more to come. If you've already subscribed, as always, I greatly appreciate your support. And on that note, I will see y'all in the next one. Y'all have a good one.